Hey guys, thanks for tuning in to another video on ForgottenWeapons.com. I'm Ian McCollum and I'm here today at Morphy's with a Smith & Wesson Model 52-1. This is one of the fantastic target pistols that came out of Smith & Wesson during the middle of the 20th century. And what makes it really unusual is that it's designed specifically for the .38 Special Wadcutter cartridge. Potentially one of the most difficult cartridges to design a semi-automatic magazine-fed pistol around, but Smith & Wesson did it. Now, to understand why they would do this, you first need to understand pistol bullseye target shooting. So starting in 1941, the standard course of fire for bullseye pistol, which was a pretty popular target shooting discipline at that time, competitive discipline, involved 3 courses of fire with 3 separate guns. Each gun has 3 courses of fire, and then you do it 3 times with a different gun each time. So you have a slow fire, a timed fire, and a rapid fire session. Each one just setting limits on how long you have to make your hits. And you would do this first with a .22 caliber pistol. You would do it second with a center fire .32 or greater caliber pistol. And you would do it a third time with a .45 caliber pistol. Now, there were a lot of good .22 semi-auto target pistols out there, as well as revolvers, if someone wanted that. And the .45 caliber section of the competition was pretty much exclusively done with 1911s. The question is, what do you do for that middle gun? Now, a lot of people just chose to use a 1911. You can do that. It'll be a little bit of a competitive disadvantage because of the recoil, but it's a viable option, and it means you only need to get 2 guns to compete instead of 3. But the people who did opt for a .32 or greater often used revolvers because there weren't really a whole lot of .32 or .38 caliber semi-automatic target pistols available. When you do see them, interestingly, you'll see things like .32 Smith & Wesson chambered target pistols, but most people ended up using a revolver or a 1911 for that section of the competition. Now, in 1960, the Army Marksmanship Training Unit was starting to tinker with a cartridge they called .38 AMU, Army Marksmanship Unit, which was essentially a semi-rimmed .38 Special. The .38 Special is, can be at least, a very accurate cartridge, and with a wadcutter bullet, which is to say a perfectly cylindrical bullet, so a .38 caliber round flat face, no cone, no point, no nothing. It's extremely accurate, and the Army was interested in trying to get that cartridge in a semi-automatic pistol because a semi-auto would be a little better for this target shooting than a revolver in the timed and rapid fire segments. So they tinkered with 1911s. They talked to Smith & Wesson about getting a version of Smith & Wesson's Model 39 semi-automatic pistol chambered for their new, essentially rimless .38 Special cartridge. Smith & Wesson did it, decided that there might be a commercial opportunity for this sort of thing, and released the Model 52 in 1961. Now, when they did that, they didn't use the Army specialty cartridge. They did a little more development and figured out how to make this pistol work with standard .38 Special, which is the cartridge that was readily available to everyone who was doing competitive shooting. So that's where this came from. Let's take a closer look. There are a number of features in this that make it just a really fantastic target pistol. All right, what we have here is technically actually a Model 52-1. And you can see that marked right here, Model 52-1. Interestingly, this pistol was also shipped to Germany in 1969, where it had to get German proof marks, because that was just German law at the time, before at some point coming back into the United States. So the other features are pretty much what you would expect from the 39 as a target pistol. You've got a magazine release right there. The front sight is a nice blade with a nice flat surface there. It's serrated in front so that you don't get glint on it. And then you have a good adjustable rear square notch sight. So good adjustable competition sights. Fantastic trigger. It does have a magazine safety, so you have to have the magazine inserted in order to fire, but it's just tiniest bit of little take up there, and then bam, like it's fantastic. Now, the 52-1 was introduced in 1963, so only 2 years after the gun first came out. The original pattern had a double action or / single action trigger, taken from the Smith & Wesson Model 39 that they based this pistol on. And they realized like the double action was not relevant to the target shooting purpose of the Model 52, so they came out with this improved version, the 52-1, where it has only a single action trigger. The slide mounted safety flips up and just blocks the firing pin there. It's not a decocker. This is now a single action only pistol. They also would then introduce the Model 52-2 in 1971, where they replaced the extractor with a coil spring style. It's an incremental improvement, not a huge thing. The 52-1 is a fantastic gun. All right, before we take this apart, let me show you the magazine here. This holds only 5 rounds because that is what you need for the competition that it was designed for, and it is only designed to chamber 38 special flush fit 148 grain wadcutters. Like, this is a gun literally built around a specific ammunition loading, not just a caliber. And the magazine is short enough that if you have a 38 special with a bullet that actually protrudes beyond the mouth of the case, it won't fit in this magazine. So very, very specific cartridge. If I load that in there, you can see that that magazine presents that cartridge nice and high up. And when I chamber that, you can see it's going to ride right up a feed ramp and go right on in. So you get 5 rounds capacity, much like the 357 Kunin magazines. The angle of the follower here is tilted backwards, so the follower actually sort of starts to tip backwards, which accommodates 5 case rims. And then, like, this actually feeds 38 special, not even just live ammo, but it'll feed empty cases, which is really impressive. So, well, let's go ahead and take it apart. Take the magazine out. I'm gonna bring the slide to right there and pop the pin out. This thing just cycles extremely smoothly, and Smith & Wesson actually put quite a lot of extra care into the assembly and the proofing and assembly of these. There's our frame. We can then take the recoil spring out. We got a recoil spring and its guide rod right there. Then we have a threaded in barrel bushing here, so I have to depress that little stop pin to be able to unscrew this. There we go. We can pull our barrel bushing out. There's then this cover plate. There we go, that cover plate. Then I can pull the barrel out, and the barrel actually has a little bit of a bulge here at the end, a bearing surface, to ensure that it is always perfectly centered in the end of the slide. Smith & Wesson put a lot of effort into making sure that these were really high quality guns. So the trigger has a factory 2.5 pound trigger press. It is extremely short. It's a fantastic target pistol trigger for a gun coming directly from the factory and not like from a custom pistol smith. And the approval requirements for these guns, before they left the factory, they had to be able to do a 5-round group from a machine rest at 50 yards into no more than 2 inches. So like the requirements for bullseye pistol shooting at this time were really stringent, and you needed that kind of level of performance to be competitive at the highest levels. And Smith & Wesson wanted to make sure that you could be totally competitive with their factory stock Model 52 pistols. So that's why they put that much work in, and the result is really a phenomenal handgun. In understanding why we don't have new production Smith & Wesson Model 52s today, I would suggest first ask yourself how many people you know who compete in 3-gun pistol bullseye competition. And the answer is probably none. Some of you guys certainly do, I'm sure, and a lot of you guys probably clicked on this video because you know all about the Smith & Wesson Model 52 and you're just excited to see someone else talking about it. But most of you guys don't know anyone who shoots this competition because, well, it's not very popular anymore. And it had been declining in popularity for a long time. Smith & Wesson looked at the production tooling for the Model 52 in the early 1990s. It was getting worn out. It needed refurbishment, and when they looked at sales of the gun, they came to the conclusion that it just wasn't worth putting in the money to refurbish the production line for the number of pistols that they were actually still selling. And so in 1993, they just dropped the Model 52 from their catalog altogether, and that was the end of it. Except it wasn't quite the end of it. In 2000, they reintroduced the gun as the Model 952. The hitch being it was now chambered for 9mm parabellum. And they would have a couple different versions of it, and it would be in the catalog until 2012. But if you ask me, the proper Smith & Wesson Model 52 is a pistol chambered for .38 Special, not a 9mm. So that existed for 32 years in the Smith & Wesson catalog, and is renowned as a fantastic target pistol today. So if it's something that you're interested in, these are out there on the collector's market, and I think underrated as a high quality pistol because a lot of people just don't know about them. Anyway, thanks to Morphe's for giving me access to this one to film for you guys. Hopefully you enjoyed the video. Thanks for watching.